As you can tell, the weather hasn't been the greatest to us. This is more of just a how-to video on how to use the TransBrake, how to use the line lock to get more of a feel for the car in drag mode when you are going down the strip. Speaking of the strip, before we get our tune back, we are going to be going to ACO November 2nd. It's the Modern Hemi Shootout. So anyone who's local to the Northeast, all Hemis are welcome. There's a bunch of different index classes, a bunch of different bracket classes, and I'll put a link in the description below on all the information, how you could get tickets to race, get tickets to show up and spectate. It's going to be a really fun time. It's only once a year, so hope to see you guys out there. I know that there's going to be a bunch of mopars out there, and I can't wait to go. First thing that we do when we pull into the staging lanes and we're about to go into the water box is we put the car in drag mode. That's number one, and as you can see, that turns on the drag stability control, and it in the top right corner gives us drag mode, which will set the shocks to drag mode, and it also sets the transmission and the engine to drag mode. Now, if there's a way I could show you on the front here, yeah, so it'll show you that on the setup, it gives you everything goes into drag. There's really no in between. Like on the Scat packs, the normal Scat packs, they have track and sport. This just has normal and drag. So it sets up the steering, the suspension, the traction, and the engine and trans into drag mode. And then you're pretty much good to go, ready for the quarter mile. So the easiest way for me to get up line lock is you hit the super track pack 2 times, and it's going to bring up your performance control pages. Just click the line lock, and then once you do that, just pop the car in drive. You hit activate line lock control, and it's going to tell you to apply brake pressure. So once you apply enough, it tells you to hold OK and hold the front brakes, and then you're enabled now, and now you continue to hold OK and release the brake, and then you apply throttle, and boom, you got a nice smoky burnout. Then as you creep to the starting line to activate TransBrake, this will be a little tricky. I'm gonna place the camera here, see if it stays. Had a couple of fail videos. I don't have a front mount for the steering wheel, so in order to do the TransBrake being in drag mode, what you will do is you will pull back on both paddle shifters. It will tell you to increase engine speed, and you bring it up to about 1700, and then you're going to lightly feather the brake to move yourself forward into the stage light, and then you will let go of the right paddle, and then it's going to tell you to release the brake. Once you release the brake, it's going to tell you you're ready to launch, whatever RPM you go at, and then boom, and you're off. And that's pretty much it. That's how you use the TransBrake. So with going through all those steps with the TransBrake, you'll notice that the hardest thing to really do is to stage correctly and consistently. I know that a lot of dodgedemon owners and a couple 1320 owners, a lot of them use just the foot brake and not the TransBrake, because it's really hard to consistently stage the car and in the same spot. And if you bracket race like me, your most important thing is staging in the correct position every single time you go down the track. So what I'll notice is most of the time you roll into the pre-stage beam, and then you're still holding both paddles back and you're trying to bump into the stage beam. And when you apply all the brake pressure, it's good for the first 1, 2, maybe the 3rd pump of trying to let the car brake through the converter and actually move. And then after that, the car tends to roll. And even when you're off of the one paddle and it's telling you let go of the brake to apply the TransBrake, it's still, you could hear the car creak. You could hear it move. You could hear it fighting the brakes. And that's the only thing that I think that could be a little bit tough as far as utilizing the TransBrake. When you're doing it, until you stage 1000%, try and keep the RPMs as low as possible so the converter doesn't overpower the drivetrain to get you to technically roll. That's the only downside I see with it. Once you're past that and you're ready to launch, depending on what kind of tires you have, I have the Hoosier drag bracket radial, same thing as Stang Mode has. I could leave right off the top that this thing lets me go at 2600. It does not spin the tire. It hooks very well, and that's even with the 390 gear installed. So depending on what tire you have, the stock tires, it definitely doesn't allow it. It doesn't allow the 2600 launch. It was spinning for me. I found the stock tire that comes with it, the Nexans, are usually better around 16 to 1800, you know, at the lower side. Or that I do, the other thing that I do notice is that when you're on the TransBrake too long and you kind of hear the whole torque reserve thing happening, and it's cutting timing and it makes that weird noise, it tends to go away and go flat. It's just like, whenever the car does that and you don't actually hear it doing the timing pull, I've noticed that my 60 foots have been worse doing that. So you don't want to be on the TransBrake too long, because that is also, it seems to be giving me a worse 60 foot, and then in turn having a crappy 60 foot, it hurts your ET a little bit, and doesn't really help with the consistency of the car. That's just a little bit of what I've gathered with the 30 passes that I've had or so in the car. It's definitely been extremely fun, and I can't wait to get this tune back from A2 Speed. Big shout out to Stuart for really hooking me up and helping me, and HP Tuners. We're really looking to get the car dialed in once we're actually able to not smack the rev limiter and have the whole car do a nosedive from second to third gear. And I wanted to go over that with you guys before I go. Kind of misrepresented myself. The car was not bogging when we had the 390 gears. It wasn't so much a bog. What the car was doing was, it was launching at a very high rate of acceleration, and it was smacking the rev limiter. And first gear, it seemed pretty fine. First gear, it would click at 6200 and it would hook, and it was going. And then second or third gear, depending on which gear it was different each time around. What it would do is it would kind of go past 6200, maybe like 6400, and it would smack the rev limiter and then die. And then it would nose over, and then it would come back up. So it's not like the car was bogging. My foot was totally to the floor, and it had already hooked up extremely hard off the line. It's just that depending on what gear it was not liking, it was just not liking the new gear. I don't know if it's the new gear. I don't know if it's the TCM, but what Stuart said we're gonna do is we're just gonna change the shift points and play with the computer a little bit to see if we could get it to like the 390, because there's other cars that I've seen out there that have had a gear swap and they don't have this kind of a problem. So and it's cutting down on times big time, because I could tell from the 1/8 mile an hour, and I could tell from the 1/4 mile an hour that, you know, there's definitely more left in the car, and that it's considerably hurting our time. So that's what we're looking to do next. That's what we're looking to fix next. It's not really all about the tune and how much it's going to pick up on the tune. Obviously, I think on a 93 tune, it's going to pick up a little bit. You know, now that we're going to have stuffed under the car, he's going to mess with timing. But I really just want the car to make a clean pass and go straight down the track. No nosedives, no hitting the limiter really hard, no bogging, and just make a nice clean pass just to see what we can get. Because I think that when we do that, combined with really good air, we can really dial a sub 1150 time. And I know that there's been a couple people out there that have gone sub 1150s in this car, and they didn't have a tune, but they did have a drag pack. So just to explain, I have a front seat in the car, I have the back seats in the car, I take the kids in this car, so I'm not looking to take those out. I also have the Harman Kardon subwoofer. I have all that junk that came in the trunk of the car, so it is extremely heavy. And I'm not trying to just rip everything out just to cut a really good time, because you can always compare apples to apples. You know, weight isn't that hard to calculate how much more, you know, ET you'd be getting out of the car. I know that with the passenger seat, the rear seat, the Harman Kardon, and all that stuff in the back out, that it nets about 140 pounds. I would say 140 pounds is somewhere in the range of a tenth and a half. I'm really hoping for a very low 11-second pass. Not sure as of yet just what the car is going to do. Like I said, our best run so far was an 1160 at 118, and that was with it really hammering the rev limiter in 2 gears going down the track. So hoping that we can make some changes and trying to get as much racing in as soon as possible. So we'll see you guys at the Modern Hemi Shootout if you are there. Again, that's November 2nd, and there's multiple classes that you could race. Anything from a pro class where it's like a 950 index all the way down to beginner bracket 500 pro tree and the 500 sportsman tree. So there's a race for everybody, and it's nice that there is racing for, you know, 10, 11-second street cars, bracket race. It's like the old school grudge races, and I love races like that. I want to get into more stuff like that. Be sure to look out in the next couple weeks for the videos comparing the old 390 passes to the new 390 passes. We just got to wait to get our tuner back from A2 Speed and get everything locked up with that. All right, guys, so hope to catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.